Welcome to the Academic Skills Podcast, and today I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Dr. Beata Webb. Welcome, Beata.
Oh, hello, Jason. Lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I understand you have a bit of experience at Bond.
Yes, I think that quite a lot of relevant for today's times experience. We've been when I say we, I mean the TESOL team. So I coordinate the team of colleagues teaching English to speakers of other languages. So we run programs which essentially educate teachers how to teach English as a second language.
Okay.
So it's a teacher training program, yeah.
And I believe you're a bit of a pioneer in the remote education or the delivery of remote education.
So I can't claim that I was the first person at Bond University to run or teach online, because I think that the BBT program in the business school actually has been running for much, much longer. However, we actually can claim to be the first sort of mainstream program that transitioned into offering as an online mode delivery. So that was 8 years ago. Okay. So we've actually been teaching the Master of Arts in TESOL and Graduate Certificate in TESOL. We've been teaching it online and on campus for 8 years. On campus for 30 years.
And I can see that you're very passionate about your teaching and your TESOL course. So can you tell us a little bit about it and why you love it so much?
I think I may sound to many of my colleagues, or have been sounding to many of my colleagues and friends, a little bit like a broken record, because I do feel very passionate about remote delivery of programs, about digital teaching, e-learning, online teaching. There are lots of ways of describing it, but there are many reasons why, and I must tell you that I actually, when we started, really, I knew absolutely nothing about it. So I was a little bit like that, clean slate, the tabula rasa. I had no stigma, I had no sort of prejudice about it. But even for someone with no experience and no prejudice, there were still so many surprises and so many amazing surprises that I experienced. So experienced things that really surprised me. I realized that just even when you think about, remote delivery, you think of distance, you think of maybe something not being personal, something that is isolated. Whereas, in fact, what I found is actually opposite things. So I think that there are lots of myths about e-learning, about, remote digital delivery of education. One of them is students are isolated. That students crave and lack interaction, that it's very impersonal, that there is no, contact with lecturers and peers, that it can be a very lonely experience. Whereas, in fact, what I found out is that what we do these days is a very different remote delivery to those early years of remote delivery. I think that we still get students who say to us things like, "Oh, when is the package arriving in the mail?" And we always laugh at that, because we say, well, you don't, please do not expect any package apart from the online package, and all you need to do is sit in front of your computer and off you go. So everything is delivered digitally. But I think that what for me was so powerful and so wonderful at the same time is that it allowed people, this mode of delivery allows people to study, to continue, or to undertake the university studies, to continue their education when they wouldn't be able to do it. So it's not just about distance. It's not just remote in the sense of people live in faraway places, but it is about something else. It is about access. It's about opportunity to do something that you wouldn't be able to otherwise continue. So just to give you an example, I have had lots of students, and we still do, lots of students who live on the Gold Coast. In fact, we have students who have completed our Master of TESOL online degree and live 400 meters and not quite near the university. So and in fact, the funny thing is that varsity for a very long time has been very known for not very good internet. Basically, these people come on campus to do online classes on campus. So it's, the term, the distance is a very funny sort of concept these days. But for me, it also gives me, so it's access, it's opportunity for people to continue education when they couldn't otherwise come to the campus. So people who work, people who look after other people, whether it's elderly parents or whether it's little kids, people who have all other engagements in life that would not allow them to come on campus and join the brick and mortar class, including people who live on the other end of the world. We've also had students, of course, not just living in varsity, but also students from, any continent, every continent on earth. I think that, so it's that access and the power that you, the moment you realize that you are actually combining so many different people in so many different places. Cameron actually told me at the beginning of last semester, he said, it just blew my mind. I had the class, and in the class, I had 4 people from 4 different continents. And that's the experience that I find really just blows my mind every time. So it's like taking internationalization, to another level. It's not just about people within the same space, geographically being from other places. It's actually joining all the other places and the people within the, digital environment. It's a fantastic feeling.
So we have people from all over the world in your Collaborate classroom. We have people from the local area.
Yes. Yeah.
in the classroom. What can I expect? Can I participate in the classes? How does, for example, how do your classes, like, I know that it's going to be different from academic to academic and different teaching styles, but how does one of your classes look like?
So I think, Jason, it's like with every teacher, we all have our individual teaching styles. And I think that it takes time for that style to evolve. So I must say that I am probably a bit of a different teacher, than I was 8 years ago, delivering classes online, because I think that it's not just the mode of delivery. We all know the content, we know how to teach it. So I think that everybody's challenge for this coming semester or this semester is to add on the knowledge of technology. But then there is that most important thing, and that's that kernel in between, and that's developing all three, developing that thing in the middle in which you deliver the knowledge in the way that you want to teach using the technology. So it will be different for everyone, just like you said, it's a different teaching style. But I think that for me, for example, what was one of the great attractions of online delivery, of remote teaching, was the fact that I could actually deliver the Bond ethos. So, what I love most about my job, and that is working with very small groups, very international groups of students who come from all over the world, and developing the learning community with those students. So knowing them by name, knowing their history, and being able to work with them at that personal level. So collaborative, interactive, okay, that's for me the teaching, and that's for me the attraction of working at Bond. That's why I'm one of the Bond dinosaurs, as you know. But I think that what is really important is that for students to remember that that package is not going to arrive in the mail. You are not going to be isolated. Your classes should be and will be, okay, interactive, because you will have the digital face-to-face contact with your lecturer. And as we've said in the previous talks between us, Jason, the conversation that we're having now does not get any more face-to-face than it is, does it? It's very personal.
It is
very personal, yeah. So I think that the students can expect the contact with the lecturer and the contact with their peers. And I think that maybe also you should instigate that contact. Please don't feel that maybe you shouldn't ask questions or maybe you shouldn't participate. It's actually the other way around. So the technology today, and particularly the tool that I am very much I love, as again, it's another thing that I'm a bit of a broken record. I do love working with Collaborate Ultra, and you can participate in classes in lots of different ways. You can raise your hand, you can write in the chat, you can put your camera on and simply ask a question. So there are lots of tools that allow us that collaboration, that interaction. This is no longer you just watch a video and you can't ask a question. So I think that please remember that the tools are there to be used. You will be, I'm sure, you become very quickly very familiar with them. But what you can expect is, what I normally do is, you walk into the class with your students and you say, oh, hello, how are you? How was your weekend? Or did you have any problems with so-and-so? Or have you heard that on the news? So that's what we do when we come to class. So I usually start the class a little bit earlier. Okay, and some people are setting up, you're just having a conversation. And I actually think that part of collaborative digital environment is extremely important, because while we are on the brick and mortar campus, people have that space before the class, people have that space, having coffee or in the library, whereas here we are pretty much providing that space. So it's very important to promote strategies for developing what I call learning community. Because, research actually shows us that people will come to class if they feel good in that class, if they have got a good rapport with the lecturer, if they've got good relationship with other students, and that will bring them more to class and that will help them learn. So I think it's expect what you would normally expect from the brick and mortar class. It will be different. It will be delivered through different tools. But the greatest challenge for me, and something that I think all the teachers will always try to do, is to achieve the same objectives, the same principles, the same ethos, the same knowledge that you would achieve in the class, the brick and mortar class, that you also achieve in the online environment, in the digital environment. Okay, it just will be different ways of achieving it.
We're just for a bit of context, we're recording this through the COVID-19 period, and my observation, because we've had a couple of different conversations through this period, is our engagement through.
Yes.
We're using Zoom right now, but we've used your Collaborate Office and we've used Microsoft Teams. Yeah. Our engagement has been really quite authentic. I've learned things that your husband cooks a great curry. I've met your dog. You've met my dog, and we've observed each other's artwork, which is sitting behind us. So my observation is that we can have really quite an authentic engagement with each other, regardless of where we're sitting.
Yes. Yeah.
Around the world right now. Does that ring true with you? Do you agree with that sentiment?
Absolutely. In fact, Jason, when we started, as I said, I soon found out that people had these, the prejudice is really what has always been there. And I suppose that unfortunately in the 90s, when the idea of remote learning comes from the 19th century, and it's got a fantastic history in Australia as well, through School of the Air, and that in fact was my very first meeting, 3 decades ago when I was on the Birdsville track with Steve, and my friend said to me, would you mind taking Shannon to school? And I was like, okay, so do I need to like drive 500 kilometers that way or 700 kilometers that way? Where do I go for this school? Because we really are in the middle of the desert. And of course it turns out, and I said, so when does it start? And she said, oh, probably in about 5 minutes. So I was, coming freshly from Poland, I was a little bit surprised. But then it turned out that, she took me to the little house, separate house with one room in it. And that was actually Shannon's school. So that was my introduction. We put a pair of these each and off we went. Hello, how is everyone today over, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, I think that it is incredibly personal, because when I started working it back to that personalized approach, is that I realized that it is more about the bond ethos, as we talk about, than ordinary brick and mortar. Because Jason, like you say, you go to people's houses. Okay, so there will be some dangers with it. You need to be careful, but at the same time, you meet the spouses, you meet their boyfriends, girlfriends, pets. You go into their living rooms, and that is something that adds on that personalization of education and brings students together as well. There is a recorded actually interview on the TESOL website at Bond, and Katie, who you might meet if you have a look at that video, she says, I actually wanted to have the interaction with students, so I went to study at Bond. When Beata said, go and study this subject online, because Katie at the time had, was a single mom and had 3 little kids. And she said, I really need that interaction. And after the first online class, she said, I'm not ever going back to brick and mortar. I love it because it is so personal. That's what she was, after. So it's very, very personal, and it can really bring people together. Like after 11 years, we just met each other's dogs online a few weeks ago, Jason.
We did. Just finally, so what advice do you have for our students who are preparing to study this semester, based on your extensive experience and your wealth of knowledge?
Thank you. I think if there was one thing, okay, there's a million things, but if there was one, please keep in touch. Okay, keep in touch. Do not go under the radar, because I think that is one thing that is much easier to do when you study online, because you don't have those meeting places. You don't meet in the cafeteria, etc. So create those meeting places with your peers, with your classmates, with your friends, so that you are participating and you are also initiating the participation in online learning community. We are still on Bond campus. So I am still on Bond campus, even though Jason has got a man-made beach behind him at the moment when I'm looking on Zoom at him. And I actually am behind the Gold Coast in the hinterland. But we are on Bond campus. Wherever you are, if you are a Bond student or if you work at Bond, you are with us, and we are one learning community. And I think that if there was one thing that I was thinking about, like teachers and workers, my colleagues, it's you can't do it on your own. We all have to work together, as we've always done. And I think that technology can be sometimes challenging and sometimes difficult, but please remember, all the support systems, the way they are when we are physically, on our gorgeous campus, they are still here, and they are still here and there and everywhere, wherever you need them. And that's the power of technology that we're working through. So I think that you're not on your own. Be part of the learning community. 70% of, apparently, the research tells us, the current undergraduates prefer, on 70% of students, not of students, but of the digital sort of between 20 and 30 is told, prefer actually online and digital communication than the physical communication. So please apply those skills to your learning communities as well, and be part of that community. I think that I just would like to say, like I said, we are still the Bond campus, and maybe more powerfully so because we are spread all around the world now, with students studying from really every area of the planet. And I think that what I would like to say is that if there is a problem, please ask, like we always encourage you. And if there is a problem now with anything to do with this particular mode of delivery, please ask. You've got Jason there, and Jason and his team, Academic Skills Center. These are all fantastic colleagues and friends who will help you with anything, with the not just academic skills, but in this case also with online academic skills as well. So
absolutely.
Yes.
If anyone has a problem with the technology and operating through Collaborate and things like that, you can certainly make a one-on-one appointment with one of our academic learning advisors through the Academic Skills Centre, and I'll put a link to making a booking.
Yep. So thank you, Jason, for inviting me. I hope that I've been able to at least instigate a little bit of enthusiasm and my passion for remote delivery, and it's a wonderful, very, very powerful tool, and it's I really hope that it will also stay with us beyond the semester, in the sense that it always offers us more opportunities, more options. So let's hope that we will learn from it. So I just wanted to wish everyone a wonderful semester. And in those difficult times, let's please remember that we are a very strong learning community, and we will continue to be that. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you, Beata. Thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your thoughts and passion about online learning. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.